Hello and welcome to a brand new episode brought to you on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. If you want to see more shows, check out foureyedradio.com, Sorry about that.
You have been listening to the Ranger Command Power Hour at the Four-Eyed Radio Network. Ranger Command Power Hour is a gas.
Hey, it's the Ranger Command Power Hour.
Today on the Power Hour, Episode 12, Ranger Nation interview, Kerrigan Mahan, recorded on May 31st, 2014. Welcome to the Ranger Command Power Hour on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. It's time to Ranger up with your hosts. I'm Eric, also known as Trekkie B47.
And I'm Zach, also known as the Cinema Slob.
This episode is brought to you by Raven Designs, illustration and design that fit your personality. For samples and inquiries, visit ravencruise.com. Today we are interviewing Kerrigan Mahan, actor, voice actor, writer, director. He is best known in Ranger Nation as the voice of Goldar in Mighty-Morphin-Power-Rangers through Power Rangers in Space, the Magna Defender in Lost Galaxy, Jeb the Dog in VR Troopers, and numerous monster voices in the franchise. He's also done a lot of voice work in anime and animation, including Robotech, Initial D, Batman Beyond, the Angry Beavers, Vampire Hunter D, and Robotech. Currently, he is starring in and producing the Goldar and Me shorts on YouTube, as well as a new short film called The Redemption of the Monster of Pedras Blancas. You can also check out his work on evilspacealiens.com. Welcome to the Ranger Command Power Hour, Kerrigan.
Wow. That's quite an introduction, Eric. Thank you very much. I don't think you missed a beat.
Well, you're welcome.
All right.
Yeah. It's great to have you on. We finally got a break in your busy schedule.
Well,
you're all over the place.
Doing these things. I've done a lot of them over the years, and I kind of hid for about 16, 17 years. I was just into other things, and my sister, Kelly, God love her, she's such a fan of me, not just Goldar, and she said, you really need to jump in and play. And I said, do I? Really? And she talked me into it. And so here I am, and I'm having a ball.
Yeah, first, I just wanted to thank your sister, Kelly, for helping coordinate the interview, and also her husband. They both work in music and sound design for movies, right?
Kelly has worked for years with some very A-list directors and producers as both picture editor, sound editor, music editor. She did a lot of work with John Williams, and Thomas, of course, is a five-star musician, stand-up 5-string bass, classical composer, techno genius head. He's why I'm sitting here. I feel like I'm sitting in front of a 747 trying to figure out what do we do now. Go over here, go there. He walks me through it. He's so patient. And I'm getting better at it. I struggle with how user-unfriendly so much of this is. It's like, so what do I do now? Where do I go?
Yeah, sometimes all of it gets a little bit too confusing for me, too, and I know computers. So along that line with, your sister and your brother-in-law, has the entertainment industry been a big part of your family overall?
Well, we're three, without exaggeration, we really are 3 generations Hollywood. I wouldn't say we're not Kirk and Michael Douglas, obviously, but and actually, quite frankly, they would be 3, I think, now, because Michael has. I don't know if Michael's kids are involved. I'm not sure what the deal is there. So they're really 2 generations. When I say 3, my father started as a child actor, and my grandma came down with my grandpa from Port Townsend, Washington, when my dad was 5. He was doing radio shows when he was 5 years old, and my grandma decided to send a picture down to Daryl Zanuck, and say, they didn't know anything. They come on, get real. And Zanuck actually answered her and said, we like his look. We can't promise anything. We're not paying your way down, but bring him on down. Oh, great. So they literally sold everything and piled their whatever they had left into a Model T and hauled down from Port Townsend, Washington to Hollywood. And inside of, I think, about 6 months, my dad landed in a serial called The Jones Family, which starred Spring Byington and was what they called serials. They were 1 hour serials that aired before the big A-list movies. And there's I've tried to research this. I've gotten nowhere, but I believe the term keeping up with the Joneses actually came from the Jones family, which ran from 1935 to 1940.
Wow.
And it is responsible for the MGM then decided, now wait a minute, we got to do something because this Jones family is bringing in all the audience. They're coming into the A-list movies. Well, they're really across the country. We're coming in to see what's the next installment happening with the Jones family. So they decided they were going to come up with one themselves, and that would be naturally, I can't think of it, way more famous. MGM with Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland. That's now I'm embarrassing myself. Anyway, they blew the Jones family out of the water with those two. Anyway, that's where my history began.
So how did you get started with, was it because of your father?
Well, I think it's like any other thing in life with families. More times than not, the apple doesn't fall far, and I think it's a safe assumption that, I would go out on a limb and say at least 50% of all people wind up kind of being in the same business as their dad. Whether you're a plumber, a contractor, whatever it is, usually the kids wind up going the same way. Unless they, are slammed over the head, you will not follow what we're doing, and you're going to get A's, and you will become an attorney or a doctor. I knew I wasn't going to be any of that. I knew quite frankly, I would say the third grade was my first endeavor in a little skit we did, and I played the the storekeeper in the old days in the Old West. It was a different name.
The general store clerk? General
store guy, yeah. And right there I was like, now I like this. And of course, my whole family was just absolutely, do not go into this business. Don't do it. Get a backup. In fact, my father used to carry on, my God, how many times did he say, get your plumber, be a plumber, for God's sake, have a backup. I had no intentions of getting a backup. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an electrician. I won't go near electricity. None of those things were going to happen. They just were not going to happen. So I was acting from basically, there wasn't much to do from third grade to sixth grade, but the minute I got into the seventh grade, I wound up in beginning winds was my, what do they call it, elective.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how I wound up in that, because I don't think junior drama, I don't think you could go into junior drama out of sixth grade. I don't think it was a choice. I think you had to go one more semester before you could make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I played the trumpet, and I wound up, being second chair. I had a nice tone, but I knew this was not for me. It was it was okay, and I knew that I would never be able to hit anything higher than a high C, and that's the end of that. If you can't hit those high notes, and I knew my muscle and my lips just would not get there. I could have practiced for a year, and it's like I might have gotten one over a high C, and that's not going to cut it. Plus, Don Bricker and Colleen Fowler and Cindy Porter were a lot more interesting to me in junior drama than what was happening in beginning winds. So, and the teacher, Mr. Bright, begged through the summer, my mom, please, he's so good. I want him to go into junior band. And she said, Carrie, Mr. Bright really, really wants you. And I said, Mom, I don't care what Mr. Bright wants. I like him. He's a nice man. I'm going into junior drama. And that was that.
Well, good for you.
So I never looked back, quite frankly. I like any actor, I did plays from 7th grade. I was thrown right into play production in the 7th grade. I went straight from junior drama into play production. And I never stopped through high school. There I jumped straight from play production in junior high straight into play production in high school, which is unheard of. And I did a monologue for them, actually. I was very enamored of the movie Patton. So if you can imagine at 13, literally 13 years old, I'm like imitating George C. Scott and doing the Patton speech. Wow. And that's how I got into play production at Westchester High School right off the bat. Boom, you're in. And I was intimidated. I mean, don't think I was some big shot. Yeah. Oh, no, man. I mean, all those seniors that are like, wow, this is the big time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandma Madge, worked for Frank McCarthy, who produced Patton. And I actually got to go to the Academy Awards that year where Patton took 9. I think 9. I still have the program.
How old were you? Was that in high school?
16. Yeah, 16 years old. Yeah, I have the program. I drove my aunt's 1968 Mustang, and I got to drive. And driving, up on the red carpet and all that thing, of course, nobody's pointing at us. They're all going, who are they? And we were not in prime seats by any stretch. But boy, when they announced Frank McCarthy for Patton, forget about it. The emotions is as I say it right now.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your sister told me about this short film that you're working on called The Redemption of the Monster of I'm probably
it's all right. I'm gonna jump in for you there.
Sure.
Piedras Blancas. Actually, Eric, the movie's made. I made the short, and that's how these things sometimes get, convoluted, as like the game of telephone. It's like, well, we're close. I actually made the little picture 2 years ago. It's a made picture. It's done. It was done as a community project. Well, let me tell you something. There's not 1 ounce of community project about it. I hunted down my cast. I said to my wife, it was in the paper, that this is what they wanted to do. A couple of women in the 70s, tried to do a little, a funny little 8mm remake of The Monster of Piedras Blancas, which was a film in the 50s. It was ghastly, and it was trying to mirror jumping in and doing a variation on the monster of the Black Lagoon. The Black Lagoon, yeah. Yeah, the more famous one, certainly, and equally as horrid, but and they were just ghastly. I mean, this film is unwatchable. It's actually, I would say, definitely check it out, and you can actually watch the whole movie, the original, on YouTube.
Is this like a Mystery Science Theater type of movie that they would make fun of?
No. Just a straight-up horror movie. Just a straight-up ghastly. They did a run of those horror movies in the mid to late 50s. Mm-hmm. And I would say probably they did, there were probably 100 made, I would guess. The Monster of Piedras Blancas is rather a classic. And how are we dealing with this up here? They shot it up here. They shot it up in Cayucas. So these 2 women advertised in the paper. They'd made a little 50mm thing. And of course, that was just ridiculous. Kids running around trying. It's like, my God, there was no sound. And I read this, and my wife, Melanie, my lovely wife, Melanie, who keeps me somewhat centered, I believe, she says, you have to do this. I said, Melanie, they want to show this on July 4th. We're in the middle of May. They have no script. They don't know what they want. They want it all. They want it green. They want it the redemption. They want it kid friendly. They want it scary. I said, my God, I wouldn't know where to begin. And I also was in the middle of writing another screenplay with my writing partner, and it's just like, we can't take time out to do this. She said, you are doing it. You must do this. I said, all right, fine. Came up with a story somehow. So my writing partner Steve kept throwing things out as he does, and I kept going, nah, crap. That's crap. That's more crap. And then he threw something out. I said, wait a minute. What if we mirror blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, we throw them our idea, and they go, yeah. We love it. And all of a sudden, I am in charge of this entire movie. It hasn't even been written. I have no cast. I have no real crew. And, we're advertising for everything. Property masters, cinematographers, sound people, and not much came forward.
Mm.
And I'm getting real cold feet. I mean, we've got now a script, and it's like, well, who's shooting this? I'm not a shooter. I'm a director, but don't take me anywhere near those cameras. I'll look at the monitor. That's the end of it. And say, look, you got a little something there in the frame. Well, that's a little problem. Fine. But, you push the buttons. Leave me out of it. Bottom line, I got it cast with amateurs across the board. Actually, there were 2 pros that have been working on and off for years and now live up here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's endearing. I'm very proud of it. I still can watch it, and it brings a tear to my eye. I did an original score, actually Foleyed it. We had some ADR. Another little girl had to do the singing part because the girl I had couldn't sing. She actually did the scene to playback. We have a 25-minute short that we shot in 12 days and had finished and completed in 30 days.
That's incredible.
It is. It is incredible. And it's going to be available on my YouTube channel. We're hunting down the trailer. We made a little trailer. We'll get it. And it'll probably go on there, and the movie will probably wind up going on for sale. Again, it's just one of those things that was so challenging, so demanding. At times, I just thought, I'm out. I can't do this. It's killing me. But it was well worth it. The payoff was beautiful. That's the basic story of the redemption of the monster of Piedras Blancas. It also won Best Film up here in the film festival for Best Local Short.
Oh, congrats. We actually heard that another Power Rangers alum was involved in this, Scott Page Hector.
He did the score, and he did a beautiful job. I've got to tell you something. He called me literally 2 weeks. He said, Kerr, I can't score your movie until I have a locked picture. And that's the way it works. I mean, it's not, you can't keep editing because the composer is writing to the frame. If I decide, you know what, I want to hold that expression on her about another beat and a half. Well, that just threw his meter. So he scored the film. I kid you not. He scored my movie in 3 days.
Wow.
And it's a beautiful score. I mean, it's so fun. It's so much a part of the film. And he so came through for me. But he literally called me and said, if I don't have a locked picture today, I can't do it. Because we're down to the wire. I'm out at 2 a.m. dancing around as the little 11-year-old in my stocking feet as she bounces up to the door in her little, she's in a wetsuit, I mean, I'm thinking, if anybody saw this, they would arrest me. You guys lost it, And Randy Allen, who cut it for me, Scott Stevenson, who shot it, I was under the impression was going to be editing it. This was not his thing, and it's like, he's kind of looking at me saying, who's going to edit this halfway through the production? I said, what? I thought you were. Oh, my God. So I begged. I got on my knees. Randy and I go back about, 8, 9 years, and he's been shooting around here locally for years, and an excellent editor. And if I hadn't had him, film wouldn't have made it, period. And we worked day and night to get that thing edited. We worked 12 days in a row, 12, 14, 15-hour days. And he did it. We did it. I'm very proud of it. And I look forward to you seeing it.
Yeah, I can't wait to check it out. Also, you're working on these Goldar and Me shorts.
Yeah.
And the first one was completely hilarious.
Well, I'd like to say this about that. I just saw the next one. My editor, who's a different editor and shooter. I'm working with a different shooter on these. Her name is Emily Delk, like Welk, only Delk. He is 19 years old, graduating college. She has been shooting since she was 8. Wow. She has shorts that she's made single-handedly on YouTube. Look her up. She is going to be the next Tarantino. She's humble. She has no attitude, no ego. And I am telling you, I am so excited to be working with this girl who has 8 projects going that she has to wrap up for school. She has another week, and somehow she sends me this over literally last night. I did not see it last night. I woke up. She said, I had a few hours this evening. What do you think? She cut it in a few hours, and it's tremendous. And I'm telling you, now I shouldn't say this, but I will.
Okay.
I do that all the time. I shouldn't say. I had already had a very, very long, grueling 5 hours with what is going to be the third installation. And dare I say there's some Shakespeare involved, and it's crazy. I mean, no, yes, it's crazy, okay? Let's just leave it at that. But I'm worn out. I have done a particular speech probably 12, 14 times with 14, 15 different angles, and I play a couple of roles. That's it. That's all I'm giving.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm tired. I'm tired. And now we're coming back to my place to shoot what is going to be the one that's going to be on next week. There's 2 little tiny tweaks I want to do with one little edit. She's a tad ahead of it, and, boom, boom, that'll be done in a second. And Thomas will mix it and color correct it, and it'll be on. So anyway, we start that. I'm toast. I'm acting to playback. So the one we did earlier in the day, I didn't have to act to playback because it was just a different scenario. It was different.
Okay.
This one, I pre-record Goldar, but it's a temp record, meaning we're going to actually record it again in the live room. But this is now for me to act to me. In other words, Kerrigan acting against Goldar on the playback. Well, I'm telling you, it adds an element of extra anxiety. It's like playing Beat the Clock. Right. So you're messing around, your head's messing around with the lines that you have down, but it's an added anxiety element that's no fun. And we're not doing that anymore. Daniel will memorize the lines, or somebody will read the lines off stage in Goldar's rhythm.
And then you'll do ADR.
Well, I ADR Goldar anyway. I mean, that's done regardless. But going to playback like that is just too much pressure. And my lines were all over the map. And God love Emily. She just sat there with the camera and let it roll. And I kicked and screamed. I said, God it. At one point, I just had a half-ass meltdown going, I can't keep these lines in my head. Well, that's why I'm so impressed with what she did with the edit, because of course I did get through it. I mean, obviously when you see it, it's like, well, there are the lines. But there is a pressure to act on camera acting. There just is. Keeping the lines together. It's not like doing stage. You've rehearsed stage for 6 weeks. Opening night is nightmarish. Most 50% of all actors throw up on opening night. That's an absolute fact. I'm a tweener, meaning I come about as close to throwing up as one can get. Yeah, once you're rolling on the stage, there's a comfort zone there. And it's also that fourth wall is not a camera lens. And you can cheat a little, meaning the camera just doesn't lie. You can't get away with anything.
Right.
Plus, the added technical element of on-camera acting is what most people don't realize. You have to match your moves. You have, if I fold my hands like this in the master, that choice is behind us. I have to do that in every other setup, or it's not going to cut. Right. So, I was kind of physically all over the map when I did this, and I was certainly trying to match myself, but, I was toast. My head was toast, and, we got it. And it just looks tremendous. My sister wrote me the email, just said, in all caps, ha, 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 we couldn't believe it. We're laughing out loud. Oh, my God, this is going to slay. So, good. I'm having fun. So, I have the fourth one in mind, and I'm not sure when we're shooting it, but I'm in no hurry now because we'll play this one and then the next one, and then, before I know it, Morphicon.
Which we are very excited to, both of us, Zach and myself, will be there at Power Morphicon. So we'll definitely see you there.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there with bells. I can't wait. And I'm not allowed to announce, so I'm allowed to tease. So let's say, how do you do that? I'm teasing, not announcing, 3 more in the future.
Excellent.
I can't say, I don't know why. Just he said, don't announce yet, but they're a lock. And one I just signed the contract on yesterday. Anyway, we got one. Let it suffice to say, here's the tease. There's a September, there's a February, March. Well, anyway. And I can't believe I'm not going to the Florida SuperCon after that video, but
it happens. But needless to say, fans have many opportunities coming up in the future to meet you at a convention.
Oh, yeah, and I've never had more fun. I mean, I had more fun at Lexington.
Which I am so kicking myself that I missed this year, because I went to the one last year, and it was a great time.
I'm stunned. I was just stunned at how many people came through there.
Yeah, from what I've heard and seen, it was probably twice or three times as large as what it was last year. That convention is, yeah.
It was at a point claustrophobic. They couldn't move on the floor. They couldn't literally, and I do have claustrophobia. You could go behind the booths and get down, but then you'd still hit a little traffic. Yeah, boy, it was crazy. Don't try ordering a scotch, though. You know? They look at you like you have three heads. They don't know. They've never heard of Johnny Walker Black.
We actually have some questions from members of Ranger Nation. And the first one is from Scott Sandler, and it deals with conventions. He asks, since you've embarked on the convention circuit, have you struck up any friendships with actors that you have yet to work with?
That's a great question. I like questions like that. Let me think on that for a minute.
Sure.
Well, I did say hi to William Shatner, who I did a TJ Hooker 152 years ago. And and I went up to him before he went on, and I said, hey, we did a TJ Hooker together. Oh, he says, did we? What year was that? But he had that, kind of like, yes, and he's looking at his phone, and he's texting like everybody else. And I said, yeah, we did a scene where I'm racing on the back lot in a Jeep, and I'm a bad guy, and the other bad guy got away, and you come slamming through in the car, and you jump out, you run up to me and go, where is he? Who? Idaho. I don't know. Idaho. And I did it for him, and he just went, oh, God. Let me try to answer the guy's question. I would have to say no. What seems to kind of occur at these things is we're all somewhat isolated in those booths doing our thing. Mm-hmm. And aside from grabbing a bite to eat in the green room, and again, you grab food. The fans didn't come there to see an empty booth. And then at night, kind of like at parties, people pretty much hang with the people they know.
Yeah.
I always have fun with Bulk and Skull, and I love them so much. They are so funny. I'm so horrified at being on a panel. I don't want to be next to them because following them is like, forget it. Just who touch that? I mean, how do you touch that?
You can't.
God, well, the one ran off to get the other one hot coffee, and they spilled the coffee, and I'm like, and I was next after they finished their stint. And I don't get intimidated by much anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to roll, and I'm just going, oh, God, what I wouldn't give to just get up and go to the other end.
Next, we have Jeff Moses at Karyu Hiroken, and he said, my question would be, how was it working with Rito Revolto's actor, Bob Pappenbrook?
Well, that's a funny question, too. I'm enjoying these. These are good questions. Bob and I had a sorted relationship. First of all, when you ask how was it working with Bob, mm-hmm. None of us worked with anybody. I came in and worked with Scott Page Pagter. We single-tracked everything. Mm-hmm. Aside from jumping in at times doing the putties, which is what's called a loop group, or doing Walla, where there were 3, 4 doing the putties. And sometimes I would go ahead and jump in and do a putty session because I was there. And that's kind of the way the putty sessions worked. It's kind of like, whoever wants to stick around and do some putties, we're doing some putties. Well, needless to say, it's not a difficult gig doing the putties, right? Okay. I mean, I'm sorry, folks, but when you dare say anybody can do this in that respect, you're absolutely right.
Right.
But much of the other stuff, don't try this at home. So in answer to, it's a twofold question, it's a twofold answer. We don't really work together. That's the point. We're passing ships.
Right.
My dear nemesis JDF and I were passing ships, and I guess we just kicked off a relationship that he decided was not going to be on any level. And I said, okay, let's go ahead and look at each other and give each other the silent treatment. If that's what we're going to do, let's do it. Okay. Yeah. And I made a couple of attempts, but that's enough of that. And so that's carried on for 21 years.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Wait till you see the third installment. We got a little fun in there too. Okay. So the second part to that is Bob and Kerrigan.
Yeah.
Bob came into all of this kind of late in the game. He ran a high-end hardware place, with the high-end fixtures and all that, right? Mm-hmm. And he'd done quite a bit of acting in his earlier years, and I don't quite remember how he wound up coming into things. I do know we had a big, huge birthday party for somebody up in Big Bear, and one of the most fun days I ever had in my life was him driving that boat, and we were all taking bets on how long you could stay on what's called they called them whales at the time, or those tubular things.
Yeah.
And man, it was intense. I mean, the boat was going, and Bob was driving it, and he's absolutely crazy. He was. He's nuts. He's certifiable. And nobody could beat me. The thing would turn over, and I'd be underwater. Like riding a bull. I stayed on it. Nobody could touch me. And Bob worked so hard at getting me off that thing, turning into his own wake, and doing I'm talking 35 miles an hour here.
Yeah.
On the water, you wipe out, or you're going underwater at 35 and getting yourself back right up. That was a great, great, great fun day. He wasn't quite into the scene yet when we had that day. And we had a nice, fun, easygoing relationship when we did some stuff at Intersound. And one night, there was a card game, poker game. And Richard Horvitz did something wrong in the game because he wasn't familiar with the game. And Pappenbrook just called him down, made fun of him, embarrassed him. And, of course, old Kerrigan sitting here always rooting for the underdog. And I called Pappenbrook down. And he looked at me and said, "You don't really want to go there, do you?" And I looked at Pappenbrook and I realized, no, I really don't. And so I kind of, dare I say, I somehow backed down. It was pretty clear I was the chicken shit. There's no two ways about it. I'm going to tell you right now, I was not going to come out on the right end of that.
Right.
I was not going to come out on the right end of that. No way, no how. The only thing I would have had going for me is I'm, again, very claustrophobic. And chances are I can squirm out of anything, even at this age. Don't start wrapping me up because I will get away. So on that note, that was pretty much the end of Bob and Kerrigan. And we were nemesis in real life from that point forward. And it was stupid. We could have made up. I could have stepped forward and said, "Hey, Bob," but I just kind of had enough. Anyway, I think he did a good job. I got no ill will toward a dead man, first of all. I feel badly that he died, I mean, he had a lot of personality, and he had a lot of demons. Let's just leave it at that.
All right.
So don't we all?
Yeah, exactly. Next, we have Sean at Snarky Sean. He said, "How often did you end up losing your voice? Is there any home remedies that you can suggest for amateur voice actors?"
Well, these are good questions, Eric. I've never had questions this good.
Well, it's our fans, it's our listeners. So
yeah, this is good stuff. I mean, these are. I would love to get more questions like this when I do these panels. Okay, great. No, I never lost my voice. Never came close to losing my voice. Now, that's not to say I didn't lose my voice in other work, which I'll share in a moment. But the key to Goldar was I rolled a lot of air. I roll a lot of air over the vocal cords. And it took me, once I realized the show was up and running, which is another question I get, "Gee, your voice sounded like it was different in the beginning." Yeah, you're right it was. I didn't know what I was doing with it and realized I better figure out this voice real fast. And I had a basement in my Burbank house, a little basement that I played drums in. And I went downstairs and I spent about an hour finding it. And there it was. There's a spray, probably best to just, I don't use anything, and I haven't used anything as far as remedies, but there's a lot of good stuff out there now, homeopathic stuff, and sprays and all of that. But quite honestly, if you're losing your voice, you're not using it properly. You're not breathing properly. I did so many looping sessions on big movies or TV shows through the years, and I had a rule. Even yelling, there's a trick to yelling. You don't scratch. You don't want to scratch your chords.
Yeah.
If you scratch your chords, you're getting into trouble. So my rule for Goldar was 45 minutes. That's how long I could sustain without my voice getting tired. And that's where you get into trouble. When it starts getting tired, the chords are swelling. Mm-hmm. And 45 minutes is what I could get away with. I also had very hot headphones. It's just like a rock and roll singer. You want to hear it even if you don't have headphones, which of course I never, ever didn't have headphones for that role. I mean, you had to be just right. But the other trick is, of course, you can wrap your hands and there it is. And I would do a little quick warm-up, just like that, a little 15 seconds, 20 seconds before let's start knocking these out. There you go. Oh, yeah, I lost my voice on Jack Nicholson played Jimmy Hoffa on Hoffa. We did 5 days on Hoffa, and all the rioting, screaming, yelling, and I knew better. This was ridiculous. And I made a rule after Hoffa, whether they liked it or not. And some people said, oh, Mahan didn't want to scream. He's such a prima donna. And I'm like, okay, you go ahead and blow your cords out. But I have other jobs. I have promos. I have trailers. And I can't afford to be screaming my butt off. I'm sorry. I mean, I'll scream so much. And screaming is a trick, too. It really is.
Now, going back to Hoffa and Jack Nicholson, is that where you got the inspiration for Jeb on VR Troopers?
Of course, Jack, yes. I mean, nothing to do with Hoffa. Always one of my impressions has been Nicholson since I can remember. I've used him on all kinds of different things through the years, but absolutely Jack. I mean, it was Jack. And I said, do you want to go with Jack? And Scott said, I love it. It was, virtually, actually, yeah, Jeb was an audition. That doesn't come up often. But the whole crew of us auditioned for Jeb. And I might have thrown a couple more things at him on the audition, but I just thought, I looked at that dog and I said, God, I mean, I think it's Jack. And Scott cracked up and Tony Oliver loved it. And, they basically signed off. They said, bada bing. And he was fun to do. That role was fun.
Well, Zach actually does a pretty good job.
Go ahead. Let's see. Bro. Virtual reality's a gas.
Ryan, you gotta go to the virtual world.
Not bad at all.
That's about as good a Jack as I can do.
More fun with it, though.
See, he's the master. I'm the apprentice going, teach me, 13.
This is Jeb Off 2014.
When these kids come up to my booth, God, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, you didn't just do that. No, listen to my Goldar. Listen, I do Goldar. Goldar. And I'm like, oh, no! Don't!
I can only imagine.
It's so painful. And, and some of them do it. Some of them have a fairly decent Goldar. And, it's my voice. So finding Goldar and trying to, hit it, that's not easy. Because, he's still my tone, and I have a kind of a different, unique-ish kind of a tone. Michael Douglas could probably do a good imitation of my Goldar, because we come from that same tonal area, if that makes sense. But, yeah, I just, sometimes it's like, you can't do that again.
Next.
Next. I mean, there's some crazy things that go on throughout the course of a day.
Especially at these conventions.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, moly.
Next, we have George Hansen Jr. He asked, what were your biggest challenges in voicing the Magna Defender? He's a complex character, and it must have been fun to voice him.
Absolutely. He was one of the handful of roles that I've had in voiceover that was multi-layered. He required good acting. Just good acting. He was a tortured soul and trying to figure out what he was doing and how to do it, and it was all over the map with that stuff. So the challenges were basically just good acting, and I loved jumping in and doing a part that you really got to dig deep. That was the challenge. I mean, I didn't just knock out the lines with him. It took a little more time making sure I got enough in the performance So sometimes there would be, dare I say, 3, 4, 5 takes as opposed to a Goldar 1, 2.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, I got to do a shout out here to just a shout out to Laura Jean Rock. She's a big Magna fan. So Laura Jean, I'm so conflicted. I'm in quiet hell all the time, you see. Something like that. All right.
That's fantastic.
That's excellent.
I'm a tortured soul, Laura Jean, and it's never going to change.
Well done. Next, we have our good friend Uchi at Anime Redneck 96.
Wow.
And he said, what is the funniest or most favorite moment of your career?
Oh, my. There's a stumper. All right, could we move on? Because I'm going to let that simmer.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll come back to him, but I've got to think because there's so many. God. Okay.
We've got kind of like two similar questions, so I'm going to combine them. Mighty Jez said, would you be open to reprising your role as Jeb the Talking Dog? And Jonathan Himmelfarb said, my question for Kerrigan is, if he'll come back, would he rather come back as Goldar, Magna Defender, or even both?
Absolutely both. I would love to come back. I really think it would be a win-win, as crazy as this is, and I step away from that as Kerrigan, looking at it from a very objective standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
There's no proof of what happened to me. It was kind of ambiguous. There's no reason in the world. I think the show would benefit, and I think we could do 4, 5, 6 mind-blowing episodes of me coming back and really raising unbloody hell. I think it could be wicked.
Yeah.
Again, nobody loses on that. I just think the show could use an interesting thing like that to happen. I don't know what the movie's going to be. I have a feeling, my hunch is they're going way big, like that trailer that was circulating. I'm afraid I said to those kids, you're messing around with something you don't own, and nothing good is going to come from this for you. My feeling is he finally said, we're doing it, and I'm guessing it's going to be, this is all speculation, but this is my whole life. I'm going to speculate that this is going to be a $50, $60, $70 million movie, and dare I say, not only are we not coming back, but I would venture to say if Goldar does come back, it won't surprise me if Russell Crowe is playing him. I don't know how far they're going to take this, but I would love to think, wow, you are going to bring us back. But it's tricky because stars sell tickets, and stars have much bigger fan bases than any of us. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I'm sure we've come up in meetings. I mean, I'm sure they've discussed how they're going to approach this. I'm sure Lord Zed is going to be doing it, but I don't know that Rob, I don't know. I don't even know if we should maybe even start to try to get in touch and say,
well, here's one possibility that I think is good for Goldar to return. And I know a lot of people, especially the actors, they don't watch the Sentai, the original footage. But the new season coming up is called Dino Charge, and it's based off the Japanese series Kyoryuger. And in Kyoryuger's movie, there is a new Goldar that comes back. Like, he's resurrected. And it's a new suit design, but it's his character resurrected. So maybe there's a possibility there that they might use that footage for the new Power Rangers season coming up. So maybe.
Wow. I hope so, because that would be awesome.
I would come back in a second. It always comes down to, like anything else in life, it does finally come down to money.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, quite frankly, I'm not holding out for whatever. My feeling is now, take care of me fairly, and it's only going to benefit me ultimately.
Right.
The fact that this character is, there's not a lot of characters historically, Eric, that have sustained for 21 years.
Right. Yeah.
The very fact that we're having this dialogue, I'm grateful.
Well, we are grateful for you being as in love with the character as the fans are.
Well, it was great fun to do. I wished he'd stayed a little tougher as opposed to getting so goofy there in the end. I wasn't sure what was happening with all that.
Well, he's not comical in the resurrected version from Japan.
Right.
Yeah.
He's pretty bad.
Good. That would be fun, because I got a lot of anger still I'd like to get out of.
So, Kerrigan, we want to thank you so much for being on today. How can the fans get in contact with you?
My YouTube channel, just type in Kerrigan Mahan YouTube, and everything comes up.
Well, there you go.
So everything will be there. And a new site is being put together. Thomas is putting together a whole new site, and that will still be KerriganMahan.com.
Okay.
So that will be coming, and please go to see the new video of Goldar and me next week, and soon there will be the opportunity to purchase the redemption of the monster of Piedras Blancas, which is wonderful, I think, and everybody else thought so. Thank you, Eric, so much. Thank you, Zachary McGinnis, my appearance agent at Galactic Productions, who has taken and continues to take such incredibly good care of me. And thank you, my sister, Kelly.
Yes, Kelly was great in helping set this up.
And
she's wonderful to talk to.
She's the gem. She's a very deep, wonderful, funny, smart, compassionate person. And thank you, Thomas, who equally so just make this all work for me so much. And my wife, Melanie, thank you so much for putting up with all of this madness.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
This has been fun.
Hi, this is Kerrigan's sister, media manager, and #1 fan, Kelly. The best place to reach Kerrigan is on Twitter at @TheTrueGoldar or on Facebook at where else? The True Goldar. Your best bet is Twitter, as, well, he hates Facebook. So once again, at
The True Goldar.
Oh God, if he only knew. Give him a tweet. He loves to talk.
You've been listening to the Ranger Command Power Hour, only on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. You can catch a new episode every other Saturday. Find us on the Morphing Grid at www.rangercommand.com. Follow us on Twitter at RangerCommandPH and like us on Facebook.com/Ranger Command Power Hour.
This has been another proud production of the Four-Eyed Radio Network. You want to see more shows, go check out www.foureyedradio.com, you winkers.